It is now good afternoon, and I want to say, Your Excellency, it's my greatest pleasure on behalf of the UPDF and on my own behalf to welcome you and our esteemed guests to this 12th Tarehe Sita Thanksgiving breakfast, which is a culmination of the commemoration of this year's Tarehe Sita, which took place in Mbarara. Your Excellency, over the past decade, this Thanksgiving event has evolved into an annual celebration anchored in divine reflection. What began as an impossible mission by one ordinary young man, yourself then, to be later joined by other like-minded peers, is likened to the proverbial Exodus, proverb in the Exodus, to God's call to Moses. It is a call hard to fathom with ordinary eyes, yet it has achieved a lot by effort and faith. As we go back to the people, like we did in Mbarara, to account, so must we go to God. As I said in Kacheka, and you corrected me, sir, that otaizuka tazimurwa. I think this time I've got it correctly. Because this is a manifestation of faithfulness and thankfulness. We are like one of the 10 lepers in the Bible, in the book of Luke, chapter 17. 10 were healed, and only one went back to say thank you. That is UPDF. And I also want to quote a renowned British preacher called Jowett, who reminds us that life without thankfulness is devoid of love and passion. Hope without thankfulness is lacking in fine perception. Faith without thankfulness lacks strength and fortitude. That's why we have to thank God for this day, because it is also mentioned in the Thessalonians chapter 5 that give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ. This Thanksgiving breakfast therefore recognizes the sacrificial contribution of those who have made Uganda what it is today. And that's why I think they chose the theme that you have already been introduced to, Your Excellency, and for avoidance of doubt, that greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for others. And this is in John chapter 15, verse 13. Your Excellency, UPDF has fulfilled this one and will continue to do so in the defense of Uganda. May I, at this juncture, Your Excellency, and distinguished guests, request you to stand up for a minute of silence in prayerful honor of those who lost their lives defending our motherland, Uganda. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord. Amen. Your Excellency and distinguished guests, like the permanent secretary mentioned, every year this event focuses on a special stakeholder category with an unalienable bond with this revolution. And since 2011, we have celebrated, among others, the first heroes of the revolution, living and dead, widows of the revolution, children of fallen comrades, and soldiers with disabilities, among others. This year, the special category is the Fronansa family, which was led in person by Your Excellency. And these Fronansa family put down their limbs, sweat and blood at the altar of liberating Uganda for decades. The Fronansa family, therefore, remains an embodiment of true sacrifice, as was mentioned by the bishop. The history of Fronansa is a divinely fascinating one. Your Excellency know it better than me. We are talking of a team of very young cadres whose thought process was far ahead of time and space. Marshaled by their fellow young intellectuals, they discerned the socio-political harshness of the times, lit the liberation torch against all odds without fear, and did intensive mobilization without any pay or being supervised. We see a team characterized by foresight and early revelation, sacrifice and patriotism, Pan-Africanism and visionary leadership, charisma, steadfastness, and veraciousness. It is no wonder that the NRA UPDF was born of this meticulous history. Your Excellency, you lit the candle and we have not covered it. It's light with a bushel, just like was mentioned in Matthew chapter 5:15. Neither do men light candle and put it under the bushel, but on a candlestick, and it is giveth light unto all in the house. Indeed, the Fronansa NRA UPDF candle is there for the whole world to see. Our preacher here elaborated properly about what UPDF is and why we tick. We have built on these past sacrifices to continue professionalizing the army with your guidance, Your Excellency. That's why it is fit for the purpose for which you created it. With your visionary leadership, we have done much with less in capacity and capability enhancement to ensure a professional, effective, efficient, motivated, and accountable force. We are also slowly but assuredly becoming highly productive. As I mentioned in Mbarara, we are engaged in crop farming. The other day, Your Excellency, you commissioned the modern water plant in Kakiri, and we are involved in other activities so that we can contribute to the national development of this country. Last year, Your Excellency, during the past the prayer breakfast event, you touched on a number of welfare issues and on which you wanted us to do a deeper discourse. because welfare is a major contribution in the development of the whole personality of soldiers in order to generate a well-motivated force while improving the well-being of their families, because this improves morale, and once the morale of the soldier is high, it increases his effectiveness and efficiency. You touched on the free education for soldiers' children in government and army schools up to A level. Your Excellency, we now have 36 primary schools and 11 secondary schools under the UPE, USE government programs. We also have 4 polytechnics and 1 medical school offering a certificate in midwifery and other related areas. This year's enrollment in primary school stands at 7,691 for primary and 5,325 for secondary schools. Last year, our secondary schools, we had 2,867 candidates, and primary school we had 2,754. We are yet to, one of the best schools was Kololo Summit View up here, and that's in the primary schools, and in the secondary schools, it was Masindi Army Secondary School. We only have to work to improve on the performance in these schools, and we think that with the arrangement of building brigade cantonments, we shall have these common user facilities improved, especially in the area of schools, medical, and also family stability, and build esprit de corps. You also touched, because you asked that once these children finish primary school, they finish secondary school, they finish A level, where then do they go? And you touched on the establishment of a university for these same children. We have started with the National Defense College. The Permanent Secretary mentioned it, and we want to pursue the NDC to first become a degree awarding institution, and we think once we have achieved that, we shall grow it into a National Defense University that will have focused or basic courses for these children in mainly science and some key social sciences. Although we still have issues with the National Council of Higher Education, but I think we shall be there now that Mama is here. Kogambera baiguru n'abahansi ni babani bahurura. Your Excellency, the other area you talked about was the duty-free shop. Currently, we have 15 branches of the duty-free shop across all the divisions, and now we have diversified the duty-free shop from just building materials that we initially were giving at subsidized rates to now a number of household items, including food items. What we haven't achieved is a fully fledged duty-free status. We haven't also diversified as we would have liked due to lack of capitalization. And we're still pursuing a tax waiver with the Ministry of Finance. Once we have all these 3 sorted out, we think that the diversification and expansion of the shops especially now that we are going to be in cantonment areas or at brigade level, will be achieved, Your Excellency. The other area you asked about, Your Excellency, was free medical services to the members of the Defense Forces. We now have 160 facilities comprised of level 2, level 3, level 4 health centers. We have a general military hospital, and this provides services, free services, to active service members of the UPDF and NRA veterans, immediate family members, local communities, and the special cases. In fact, 65 to 70% of the people we treat in our health centers are civilians. There are civilians. Now, we are also constructing a state-of-the-art National Military Referral Hospital, which we think will now sort out issues of secondary and tertiary diagnostic and treatment issues, which we have been referring outside of the country very, very expensively. Your Excellency, the other area you touched on was the welfare of the soldiers after service. Slowly this one has improved since especially the 2014-15 financial year. All retirees now get full terminal benefits, including the survivors of the deceased. And many of those who were retired at that time or were not registered in the NRA have been verified to be paid ex gratia. And in this directive, Your Excellency, of food security for the country, we also mobilized 18 circles of veterans who planted over 4,000 acres of maize, which we think UPDF can buy so that they can get money on their pockets. Your Excellency, there are other areas that we are tackling to improve the welfare of the soldiers. Obviously, one of them has been a salary enhancement. We want to thank you for your support when we were retiring our generals last time. You came in and they went with an enhanced salary, and actually they are now being called science teachers out there where they went. Your Excellency, the other area where you have personally supported the welfare of our soldiers, I think there is one general called General Charles Taylor. He lived in 1865. He said, reflecting from the history has shown that no man has ever risen to become a great man if he does not care for his men. And Your Excellency, during a time when you are visiting the units, you guided that we should help the women form groups so that they can generate extra income to supplement the salaries of their husbands. And indeed, you gave us 1.9 billion shillings, which we distributed to 27 units so far, and 3,893 spouses have benefited. And this money has been repaid up to the tune of 1.54 billion because it's a revolving fund, and in the process they have made themselves a profit of 137 million shillings. I want to applaud one of the women groups, or three of the women groups in CMI, which never received part of this money, but they were able to save 600 million shillings, Your Excellency, last year. This one, partly apart from benefiting them in creating more income for themselves, it has also brought stability in the homes. We no longer receive very many cases of soldiers abandoning their families and so on, because ukatuhomuganda and really it is helping us a lot. And I want to thank Mrs. Mugume. Oh, she's here. She heads the Women's Spouses Desk, which is really managing all these affairs of the welfare of the soldiers' wives through the women's association called Reach Out Wives of Soldiers Association. And this has brought us great pride. There are other issues of welfare, like the construction of decent accommodation. Your Excellency, we want to thank you. You helped us get 50 billion shillings to start some constructions, and so far we have about over 700 houses under construction. Some of them you commissioned them in the SFC recently, and we want to continue doing that as funds become available. And since you are there, we know we will succeed. Therefore, Your Excellency, with all this, I want to commit that UPDF will remain steadfast in contributing to Uganda's journey to modernity by providing a secure and stable environment, because without security there can never be development, as I said. Let us use this occasion to ensure increased commitment and contribution to the greater cause that lies ahead, and recognizing sacrifice of the founders allows consolidation of our ideological identity and the overall maintenance of our revolutionary and historical mission. Lastly, Your Excellency, allow me to thank you and all the people gathered here for finding time to come and grace this occasion with your presence. I want to thank the people of Uganda for untiringly standing side by side with the UPDF all the time, right from the Fronasa days. I want to thank everybody who has contributed to the success of this function, especially the Honorable Minister of Defense and his Ministers of State, the Permanent Secretary and your team, the UPDF fraternity led by the Joint Chief of Staff, General Leo Chanda, and everybody else. Even by coming to attend this function, you have made it a success, because we could have put all these chairs there and then they remain empty. It wouldn't have succeeded. Thank you very much. I want to say that too, we will continue standing with our motherland through the thick and thin. All you have to do is just don't take the environment that has been created by His Excellency and those he started with, the UPDF, for granted. Please respect those who have created this environment that you are enjoying, and all will be fine. Your Excellency and all the guests, I want to wish you a happy prayer breakfast, which you have already finished here, by the way. May God bless all of you for God and my country. Thank you very much.